At the end of the Vietnam War, over 100,000 people fled South Vietnam for the United States. They were first sent to refugee centers such as Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, before disbursement around the country.
In 1975, particularly during the last months of the war, as Vietnamese Communist forces began to infiltrate into South Vietnam and surround the capital city of South Vietnam, which was Saigon.
And they came here, of course, fleeing the war in Vietnam. Or they came after the war was over, but mostly during the war.
Many of them settled along the Gulf Coast, including on Galveston Bay.
Furthermore, Houston, with its close proximity to the ocean, allows, for instance, Vietnamese fishermen and shrimpers to move to Houston and pick up where they left off as far as occupation.
And they went down to Seabrook and started fishing out in the Gulf Coast, started fishing for shrimp and started out fishing everybody down there.
Those bigger catches didn't sit well.
We had testimony that these white fishermen would have to come in at 5:30 or 6 to eat dinner because their wives said be home on time, while the Vietnamese fishermen had their entire family on the boats, and they would stay out till it was dark and just started killing the white fishermen out there, and that's what caused the trouble.
In addition to the fierce competition, other perceptions of the Vietnamese shrimpers angered the locals.
Some of them were true as far as the Vietnamese shrimpers who were unaware of some of the regulations when it comes to shrimping and fishing. There were rumors that these Vietnamese shrimpers and fishermen received great financial assistance and support from not only the federal government but also the state government of Texas. With the influx of Vietnamese shrimpers and fishermen, they were an economic threat to them, and consequently many of them were not faring so well in comparison to the Vietnamese shrimpers.
Inevitably, things turned violent.
Consequently, you have skirmishes between the two groups to the point where the Ku Klux Klan got involved.
The Klan probably was brought in by a couple of white fishermen who wanted to run these folks off.
The Ku Klux Klan was still active in rural East Texas in the 1970s.
The highest per capita population of Klansmen in this country was in Vidor, Texas, at the Church of the Ark. And they were all over the place. They did paramilitary training in Texas, and it was quite dangerous. They were led by a very smart guy by the name of Louis Beam, and he was the source of the trouble. And they were teaching people, including some of these fishermen, that's correct, how to use semi-automatic weapons, automatic weapons, high-powered weapons of all kinds. And it was military training out in the woods in East Texas.
Events got bad enough to attract national attention.
For instance, you have Native Texans attacking and burning Vietnamese shrimp boats, and Klan members would get involved, and they would parade around the city of Seadrift and also Seabrook. And
it took the typical cowardly Klan approach. There were calls threatening children. There were shots fired at one point at a boat, across the bow of a boat. They burned a couple boats, as I say.
Things got scary, really, to the point where a lot of the Vietnamese shrimpers would flee the area momentarily, or temporarily.
There was one deadly incident of Vietnamese retaliation.
This caused some Vietnamese shrimpers to retaliate, including the Vietnamese shrimper So Nguyen, S-A-U Nguyen, who shot and murdered Billy Joe Appleton after a heated debate and after several punches were exchanged.
Morris Dees and the Southern Poverty Law Center wanted to take the Klan to court.
The Klan had burned a boat or two belonging to the Vietnamese, and he came here, and the Vietnamese community was reluctant to file suit. Colonel Nam was the man he dealt with, who was a leader in the community, and he finally persuaded them to take their grievance to the courts. The control, really. Morris was just waist deep in that case. He did depositions, I did depositions, so did Philip. And our goal was to stop the paramilitary training and to get an injunction ending the harassment.
It was not an easy process.
dear friend Morris Dees from the Southern Poverty Law Center took his deposition, Beam pulled back his white robe and revealed a revolver. They were going to kill Demon Dees, and they were going to kill old Lawyer Berg, too.
The tact of the Klan lawyers didn't help their cause.
We went to federal court, and we drew Judge Gabrielle McDonald. And the very first thing the Klan did was file a motion to do what's called recuse her, force her to resign the case. And the exact title of that motion was Motion to Recuse Negress Judge. It is a fact that we were able to present evidence that caused her to issue an injunction shutting down the Klan's paramilitary training, and secondly, we got an injunction making sure that there was no more violence down there in Seabrook. For some reason, and I think Morris Dees would tell you the same thing, that injunction terrified the Klan because they fled the state. That's when they went up to Coeur d'Alene.
Other factors besides the lawsuit helped as well.
The major shipping companies who hired Vietnamese refugees to work in their factories, or who would buy their shrimp from the Vietnamese shrimpers. You also have to give credit to people like political activists like Ms. Glenda Joe and Marco Chu, who were heavily involved throughout the crisis. For Vietnamese shrimping families, they would pool in their social capital using family members and relatives to assist one another, and they would work long hours and 7 days a week to just make ends meet, to make a living.
It took about a decade, but trouble along the bay did subside.
What I am so thrilled by is I went back down to Seabrook about 5 to 10 years after that, and the entire dock, all that area was owned by the Vietnamese fishermen, and they didn't owe a penny to banks.
From the end of the 1980s to now, you have, as far as the majority of shrimpers, most of them are Vietnamese.
I loved the story of their entrepreneurial triumph and the triumph of their courage in taking on the Klan.
Up next, local fruit growers.